Hello and welcome back to the worst War Machine channel on the internet. I'm Malorian and this is Malorian Weekly. And this is another one coming to you from our content overlords over there in Patreon. And this one specifically is coming from Boyd Christie. So as part of that Patreon level, they're able to pick a topic where every single month, Malorian, you're going to be covering this. And so actually originally Boyd had said, you know, Malorian, I want you to go and try and do an interview with a privateer press staffer. Now that's not exactly what the intent was for this level, but I thought, hey, let's give it a try. Now I started that process. It's going to take some approvals. You know, I'm sure over there like, doesn't that Malorian guy say a lot of nasty things about privateer press now and then? Ugh. And so hopefully we're going to be having a interview with Lauren actually next month, but couldn't do anything for this month. So Boyd said instead, all right, well, how about you go and you do a video talking about War Room, talking about what it does, what are some tips, but more importantly, why is it so great and why is it really having a lot of potential of getting new players into the game and what can be done with that. So I thought the very first part to be talking with would be in the very beginning, right? Let's talk about what we did before and we'll work our way to War Room and then talk about what it could be meaning in the future. So what we had originally was cards. You know, you'd buy your product, inside the box would be a card and was pretty simple, right? What are the rules for this model? Well, go look in the card that was right there. Reading the card explains the card. And so on here, you'd have the point cost, all the rules, that damage grid, so you could be marking it off. Of course, there's always that one unlucky person that uses like a permanent marker and then like, oh, now you gotta put it in a penny sleeve or whatever it is type thing. But yeah, that was a pretty simple thing to have. Now there were definitely problems and a lot of problems. Now some of the problems you might have is, like I said, you would have to be very careful on how you mark these in. If you actually even just use like one that can rub off, eventually it can like smear on it, be pretty bad. That's one thing that can be very simple to fix. But what about something about just like, what do you do when you lose a card, right? If you have your cards from all things you grabbed and you're pulling out the ones from your list and you're using them, well, there's always this transition period where like, do you lose one because this like slides underneath the desk, it gets damaged, who knows what happens to it? What do you do when you don't have a card anymore? Or what do you do when the card changes because there's been an errata? What about when they move from mark, 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, and there's mass changes? And so what Privateer Press did there is like, well, okay, there'll be a deck you can buy. Come here, you can grab this deck, and then that's what you can be using. Now, unfortunately, that fixes the fact that you have this wrong card, but then the next errata happens. Or you bought that new deck for Mark II or for Mark III, and now it's like, oh, well, in the deck, there's 2 of these jacks for the cards, but I'm running 4. So how does that work? Oh, well, maybe you do a thing where the first 2 that are damaged, use that card, and then use the ones after. Oh, well, they've damaged all 4 of my jacks. Where am I recording this damage? Or the same things with like lost cards and all this stuff. It could just get very finicky, and it wasn't the best. It was a nice cheap option, right? Like a couple of cents for a card, throw it in the box, good to go. But there were some problems. Now, before we get to the app, I also want to talk about how we have the online card database right now, where for free, you can go onto their database there on Privateer Press's website, select whatever cards you want, and then turn them into a PDF. Those PDFs can be used for easy reference at any time, or you can print them off, right? There's nothing stopping you making up your own list, printing it off on a sheet of paper or on thicker stock, using those to mark them just like the olden days. Like that's just something that's an option to you. And so that kind of fixes a lot of those issues that we talked about. The ideas of what if rules change? Well, it'll be right there, right? You can go and fix it. What happens if you damage a card or lose a card? Just print off a new one. Well, okay, if that's the case, why do we even need anything else? Why is there even a War Room at all? Well, obviously, there's advantages on top of this going into War Room, so let's talk about that. So now we're getting into the War Room app. And there was one before. If you're currently looking at this, we're actually on War Room 2. So if you're ever looking at an app store and there's like, why is there a War Room 1 and 2? There was an original one that was more so like with the Mark II stuff. Please get the War Room 2 app. Now, what are you doing in there? Well, the very first thing you can do is be going in there and building your list. It's a really great place for that, where Oh, you know what? I want to go and I would be building a list. Okay, create a list, make a name for it. What's the size for it? All these types of things. Oh, okay, I think I want to try this caster. Oh, no, you know what? I don't want that caster anymore. Let's remove it. That's fast and easy. Geez, what caster should I use? Well, if I click on the option, all the rules come up, right? Digitally, the car comes up. And I can be like, oh, that has that. Okay, go back. What about this caster? Yeah, that's the caster I want to go and add this. Okay, let's add in the battle group, all the other units, you know, the free options from the themes. You know what? This thing has Solus. What does Solus mean again? Oh, click on the icon. It takes you to the rules. You know, for free, the rule book is coming up for you and you're able to see it and be like, oh, right, that's how this rule works. So all this information, we're going to get to like the list building back in a second, but even just having all those rules available to you, being like, oh, I don't need to be keeping this handful of cards and making sure they're always on me at all times. They're just right here, and I click like a simple click on the screen and it kind of shows up. Oh, I don't need to be bringing the rule book with me. I can just click on wherever the rule is, or obviously just bring up the rules anyway and go through, find whatever I want to find, and it's all right there, very easy to find. Secondly, you have the fact that you're in there just making whatever type of list you want, right? Save as many lists as you want there, all different types, play around with them, minus things, add things, you know, share them. It's just so easy to be done. Now, the next thing is that once you have that list, you're able to go in there now and actually be able to play with it, right? You can go to war as the option in it. You pick your list, and now right there in the application, there's a spot where as things go through, you can be marking damage, healing things up, whatever you need as you go through the game. And it's a very handy thing to do, right? It was always handy to have these things with a marker, be dabbing and adding. And then it sometimes got kind of weird, especially with the larger damage grids, like on a jack or something. Like, okay, I'm going to mark these damages. That's easy. Now I'm going to heal 2 boxes. Okay, I've got to very carefully clear that off. Okay, now you added more damage. Now I'm going to try and clear some. Oh, I think I cleared an extra one. Was that one marked or not? I can't remember now. Now it's all smudged. It's really easy on War Room. So that's fantastic. Now, if that's all it was, that would probably be already a great application, but there's more on top of that because you could be recording things in there, things like what models you own, what models you have painted. So with that, you could be doing things like, okay, I don't want to be seeing all these other options when I'm trying to very quickly be making a list because I'm at a, somebody's coming over, we're going to be having a game. I want to quick make a list. Don't show me all the stuff that I don't have. That's just slowing me down. Only show me the things I own. Okay, that's easy. Or add on the things you painted. Maybe you're going to a tournament where you only want to be seeing that you can only be playing with painted stuff. Great. Make it so it only shows the stuff that's painted. Maybe you're using this to track what you own and be using that as like, okay, I can now make a list that literally shows everything I own. And then when I ever want to be, trying to show it off, is it like, oh, well, this is how much stuff I have. Or maybe you're exchanging factions or whatever, and you want to sell it. All right, copy all, go, off it goes. Or maybe you're using this to track what stuff you have painted so that when you're going through like a painting campaign, you can work your way through and be like, okay, for this season, I'm going to keep on adding these things to my painted list. And at the end of the season, the year, however it works, boom, I can see all the things that are on that list, right? So there's a lot of different things you can be using it for that a lot of people don't. Another one that seemed to be what they wanted you to do originally, like in the original War Room, was to be able to start a match against an opponent and you could see each other's lists and you could be seeing each other's damage and stuff like that. That was kind of glitchy, didn't really work very well. However, right in the middle of the game, you could be clicking on the icon and see your opponent's stuff. And so if it's ever like, okay, what does that stuff do? It's not the awkward conversation like, can you tell me? Can you hand me your card? No, I'm just going to click the button and do it myself. Very quickly be able to see very obviously, oh, right, this has this rule, which is also important because a lot of times that would give things away. Things like, does that thing have shield guard? Whoa, wait a second. Why are you asking this? Are you about to shoot me with something very important? What's important? Oh, yeah, right. You got Iris there. I got to watch out for that. Let's make sure that my shield guard's nice and close, right? Like things like that, if you ever asked about it, would be kind of like showing your hand to your opponent. But now you can just be like on your own phone, looking it up, being like, oh, okay, now I know, and I'm not giving anything up. So all this information that's at your hands, at your fingertips, fantastic. And I mean, like, there's been a lot of people that sometimes complain about War Room and being like, oh, well, it's glitchy. You know, sometimes the rules aren't updated right away. Sometimes there's mistakes. Ah, blah, blah. Honestly, if you look through all the games out there and all the different applications, War Room is amazing. Just how easy it is to use, all the information that's right there. It's fantastic. Now, let's talk about one negative here. There is a cost to it, right? This is not a free application. It's something you can buy. You can buy by the faction. You can be buying just everything at once. And that's what I did. I just like bought everything at once. And now whenever new things come out, I don't care. It's in my phone. It automatically updates and I'm good to go. However, that can be something that's kind of holding back newer players. You know, when I'm trying to bring a new player into this game and they're kind of asking like, oh, what can I be doing to jump in? Okay, well, what you can do is you can get this starter product. You'll need the like dice, measuring tape, and let's kind of play. Oh, well, where's all my rules? Oh, we can be doing War Room. What's War Room? And one of the things I want to kind of show that they're kind of doing to link it is that on the back of the boxes now, there'll actually be a reference to like, hey, go to Google Play or your App Store and go get War Room 2, which is fantastic as a reminder. Nobody ever reads that. I'm sure like a lot of us out there. In fact, I didn't think that it was on there. There was no reference to it until I literally grabbed a box, took a look at it, and it was like, oh, wow, there actually is something there. So this sort of a reminder isn't really working very well. And even if it does, they go there and it's like, okay, let's go and get my card. Oh, I gotta pay for War Room. It's not free. Okay, that's a problem because like, look, I have like this budget. I'm a new player that usually they have limited resources. This is not gonna work. Luckily, we talked about another option. There is the card database, which they can be using for free and printing these things off. Here's the problem there. You know what's not on here? That link. There's nothing on here talking about going there for the cards you can print off. It's actually amazing how many people out there don't know the card database even exists. When I do my brawler bios and things like that, and I want to be showing the cards, I just go to the database and I select them, bring them up. It's all easy. But a lot of people don't even know that they're there for free. Now, there could be something on here. It could be saying, hey, go to the card database. You could be finding all the rules there. That'd be a nice little ad. However, that also has the complication that, hey, you know, like this is not like it was 10 years ago. A lot of people don't bother even having printers. And sure, I can do this PDF and I can bring it up, but unless I print it off, I don't really have a way to mark damage. If I do print it off, it'll be like a one time I put it down there. If I don't do like a sleeves or something where I can wipe it off, it's again not very user friendly. And so here is this new player walking in, wanting to play and being like, oh, I don't have these things. I don't have any way where I can mark my damage. I've bought a starter box. I've built it. And I literally can't play because I just don't have these resources with me. If I don't go and spend extra money to do the War Room app and, you know, load in my faction or buy everything, or if I go on there and like, you know, take the money and resources to print off my cards, put them in sleeves and all that type of thing, I can't just like grab it and play it. And that's a problem. That's something that's not really that great. Now, Boy Christie had a great idea that I fully agree with, which is that there should be a code. A code that you can go in, and when you buy that starter box, and again, Privateer Press, you need to rethink how starter boxes work. So while you're doing that, there should be a code in there so that these new players can go in there, and that's going to unlock your faction for that whatever starter box you bought. And it doesn't have to be a generic. You can make things so it's like opens up for everybody. Or maybe it's like this code, if you do it, only unlocks the cards in that product. In fact, that's probably what they should all be, right? If you wanted to make it so like this, hey man, you can't just say that Privateer Press should be doing this for free. They need to be making money. Okay, why not you just say that whenever you buy one of these things, there's a code in there for that product so you could actually go and use it. That's probably going to be a good thing to do, even though you probably wouldn't be able to see the stuff that your opponent have because you didn't buy them. At least you'd have your own models, which you could be plugging in there, actually being able to go to war, mark the damage. At least it'd be having that. However, I do believe as well, if you bought like the Signar starter set, And as you did that, you had a code, you go in there, it unlocks all of Signar for you. Fantastic. Well, what's going to happen once they're in there? They're going to play against their buddy that has Menoth or whatever else and be like, what? What does your stuff do? Okay. And then as they're probably wanting to learn their stuff, they're going to look through their own rules, but they're going to want to look across the fence and be like, wait a second, what does this Menoth stuff do? And what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to buy the Menoth deck. They're going to want to look at everything and eventually be like, no, what, fine, just give me the whole package. So you could argue that putting that code inside of boxes and stuff like that would lose them money because these people no longer will buy it. But we all know that once you get in there, hey, that's going to be tempting you to the point where like, okay, let's go and buy these other things. Plus, it would be a very specific point-to-point reference, right? Somebody opens up the box, they grab their model, throw the stuff away. But in there, like, oh, well, what's this piece of paper? Oh, this is my code for War Room? Oh, no, let's go there. Let's unlock this. Let's take a look at it. Hey, what other options do I have? Wow, that's a lot of cool options. I should probably buy that. This is actually now encouraging not just buying more things in War Room. It's now showing off what other options you have. And like, yeah, this list would be a lot better if I got this Jack or this Solo or whatever, right? And it's just kind of feeding into itself. Now, I think that's a very easy way to go next with these War Room things to try and bring in new starter players is have that code, have that straight product to War Room type of interface. But here's the next thing I want to be seeing. I want to be seeing in War Room and Privateer Press, listen to this, I've talked about this before, but this is really important. You want something in there where you could be organizing and entering into tournaments. Basically just like something like Best Coast Pairings or something like that, where look, I've gone into this, I've made my list, let's go and make it so I can now use this and enter into events. Conflict Chamber has done this as well. And then it's really great because as somebody enters into it, well, I've used this application. I've now, in Conflict Chamber, I'm submitting something that's a legal list. So you as a TO doesn't even need to really review my list. You know it's a legal list. In Conflict Chamber, not in Conflict Chamber, in Best Coast Pairings, if you do that type of thing and like put a list into there, the TO still has to look through it and make sure it's legal and good. But imagine they did that with this, where you go in there and you say, okay, I've made my list. Hey, what events are in my area? So I can search, I can put in my country, my province, state, whatever, find what's by you. Hey, now not only is this application getting you into the game, letting you look at other things, when to buy more, now you're connecting with the community. Now you're trying to be getting more games. Now you're actually entering into events. You're able to do this with this. They can be doing pairings, all these types of stuff. And then what happens once you go and put this into your application? Now you have the data in order to be able to balance your game. Because if you're someone that's in Privateer Press development right now and saying, you know what, I've been reading these complaints that the Death Archon is too powerful. Okay, what data do you have to show me that this is right or wrong? Oh, well, there was this one tournament over there and somebody won it. Okay, that's one case, you can tell me that red hair makes you bad because you heard of this one time where the robber had red hair. That doesn't really prove anything, right? That's one case out of, I need more data, give me more. Well, you know where you're going to be getting that more? In that case there, where people are putting in all their tournaments into here. It's so obvious because people are making it in War Room anyway. It would basically just replace Conflict Chamber as what people are going to be using. And now they have that data and they can be like, wow, not only can I see that in these tournaments on average, the top winning players are playing this faction and taking these options. I can even look even deeper and say when people are making lists, people are looking at these options. So not only can I be seeing what are things that are winning tournaments that might be too powerful, but what are players interested? You know what? A lot of players are taking Silverline now. I know we changed the rules and all that. They're not really winning tournaments. But if people are interested in Silverline, maybe we should be looking into a Silverline UA. What's something that actually nobody has any interest in? So it's not only not winning tournaments, but people aren't even putting it into a list. Looking at you, long gunners. Well, you know what? Let's look at that data and be like, let's go and focus on this, because this is a property that we already have models, blah, blah. If we invest a little bit of time so that we are making these better, making new UA, cheaper, whatever it is, well, then by spending that time there, people will just buy the existing models, and that's a way that we can actually be making money from product that's just sitting in the warehouse not doing anything. This is data that could be easily theirs, but they have no way of accessing it. So in summary, what we're all trying to get from this video is that cards, they had their place. They did fairly well. If you're a person that uses cards now, you're not a moron. You know, you're probably a person that likes having the feel in your hands, likes laying them out. You know, there's reasons to use cards, but really, as a community, we're pretty much past this. When I'm playing with people, almost everybody is now going on to War Room. What we need now then is a better way to be connecting War Room with our community and finding new people and actually getting that information to Privateer Press. So we should be using ideas like actually sharing the fact, like, did you know you'd be using it to track the things that you own that are painted? Let's use this for our next painting campaign. Awesome. When you have a new player come in, point them towards War Room and all the benefits. And Privateer Press, when it comes to those things, in your new starter products that hopefully you're working on, think about having a code in there so that new players can get into there and actually have a way to be playing their stuff right away. And from that, maybe think about going a little bit further and seeing if we improve the functionality in here and invest into it, X amount of money, so that we can now be having people building their lists and submitting them into tournaments, and the tournaments there are actually like doing the pairings and actually then, you know, tracking the winners and stuff. We are now giving ourselves a fantastic resource that we can be using for our own development. Data is the way of the future, and they just have it right there. They just need to take that next step so that it's not something that the user is just using, but it feeds back into Privateer Press. So there you go. There's War Room. That's why it's amazing. This is why Privateer Press, it can get even better in the future. I hope you enjoy it. Again, a big thanks out to all my patrons out there. It's really fantastic. I love doing all this work with my content manipulators and overlords and even just all the other supporters. I hope you're looking forward to all the benefits and improvements that's coming to this channel from that. So there you go. Thanks for watching. If you have any other thoughts, please post it down below. And otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.